Welcome to The Explainer. Tonight, we are diving into a huge one, the milestone 250th episode of SVA Showdown, coming to us live from the high-stakes world of Las Vegas.
All right, let's get right into this historic night. So the Sanctioned Violence Organization, the SVO, they're celebrating this massive achievement, right? But underneath all the glitz and glamour of the Goodfellas Casino Arena, let me tell you, the tension was just electric.
250. Think about that for a second. 250 episodes of triumph, of brutality, all leading up to this one single evening. But this was no simple celebration. It was a powder keg just waiting to explode, only 2 weeks before their biggest show of the season.
And, the commentator Julian Fiasco, he really set the tone for the entire night. His prediction wasn't just for show. It perfectly captured what the swatter is all about. This milestone was going to be built on a foundation of pure sanctioned violence.
So with that pretty ominous tone set, let's take a look at how it all played out in the championship picture. We had 3 major titles up for grabs, and every single match had this intense story just bubbling under the surface.
And this slide, it really lays it all out for you. You've got the 3 pillars of the night's action right here. From the tag team scene all the way up to the main event, every single champion was staring down a very, very dangerous threat.
First up, it was a real battle for SVO's honor. You had the fan-favorite cousins, Frankie and Money Malone, defending their turf against the Star Brothers, these guys from a rival promotion. So the Stars, they try to get clever and use a title belt as a weapon. But nope, Frankie Malone ducks, and that belt crashes right into Darren Starr's own head. And just like that, the Malones walk away with a hard-fought win.
Next up, the International Championship match. And this was really a battle of philosophies, you know? You had the grizzled veteran CJ Dreamer trying to slow the pace, use some dirty tricks. But Masafumi Satake's style is just so powerful, so direct. It was simply too much for Dreamer to handle. A decisive Matsuzaka cutter, and that was all she wrote.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the heart of the main event. It was that classic story, right? Power versus speed. You had the sheer, methodical force of Angelo Unbreakable Anderson against the dazzling, high-flying agility of the champion, Carlos the Miami Maverick Vasquez.
Well, as you can probably guess, the match just evolved into absolute chaos. First, Alex Sterling runs in trying to cost Vasquez the title to soften him up for their future match. But then, get this, Kenneth D. Williams shows up looking for revenge on Anderson for a past attack. In all the confusion, Vasquez, nearly blinded, somehow manages to hit his signature Miami Vice kick on the stunned giant to keep his title. Just incredible.
But the night wasn't just about who walked away with the title belt. It was about bad blood boiling over, setting the stage for some really personal, really nasty showdowns down the road.
I mean, check this out. The Lone Star, Colt Thompson, he didn't mince words. Before Satake even went out for his title defense, Thompson gets right in his face backstage and basically promises to take that international championship from him at the pay-per-view.
And speaking of intense, the rivalry between Adam the Mad Bull Garcia and the bully Danny Domino, well, it just went completely off the rails. Garcia is doing a simple interview, and Domino comes out of nowhere with this vicious blindside attack. It turned into a massive brawl that spilled all over the backstage area. It took a whole swarm of security to finally pull them apart. But believe it or not, the personal stuff, that might not have even been the biggest story of the night. The biggest shockwaves, the ones that are really going to have an impact, came from the corporate side of things. We're talking direct orders and some absolutely stunning threats.
So first, you got to understand who these guys are. Blood Money, think of them less as wrestlers and more as, well, the owner's personal corporate-funded hit squad. They're not there to win titles. They're there to eliminate problems.
And yeah, they absolutely fulfilled their contract. This was a direct order from the top, from owner John Page himself. Blood Money went out there and systematically dismantled the SEC, handing that previously undefeated group their very first loss in a brutal, calculated attack.
But just when you think you've seen it all, the most shocking, most unbelievable moment of the night comes from the International Tag Team Champions, the Malones. Feeling completely disrespected by management, Money Malone gets on the mic and lays down this jaw-dropping ultimatum. And then came the bombshell. Money Malone didn't just hint at leaving. No, he name-dropped SVOL's chief competitor, X-Pro, and then threw up their signature hand gesture. The threat was unbelievable. They were threatening to take the SVOL's tag team titles and walk over to a rival company. This isn't just about disrespect anymore. This is a potential corporate crisis that could shift the entire balance of power in the industry.
So, when you put it all together, all the chaos, the new rivalries, the corporate betrayal, this 250th episode really served as the final, violent, and chaotic stop on the road to the company's next huge pay-per-view, Seasons Beatings. And yeah, the matches for the pay-per-view basically wrote themselves right then and there. Vasquez now has to defend against the guy who interfered in his match, Alex Sterling. Satake has to face the challenger who called him out, Cole Thompson. And that deeply personal war between Garcia and Domino, that's finally going to get settled in the ring. And that's really the big takeaway from Showdown 250, isn't it? It didn't end with some big celebration. It ended with a whole bunch of questions. With battle lines drawn, new wars declared, and loyalty completely shattered, the fallout from this one night guarantees that the road ahead is just paved with conflict and total uncertainty.